Okay, next question. What are the top factors taken into account during the application screening process, and what makes a student's portfolio stand out?
Before I say that, I just have to say amen again to that. That is probably the biggest issue that I think all of us deal with, and it's new, that people are getting wrong information from other sources that look official. And then, wrong deadlines, wrong schools, wrong everything. And so please be sure where you're getting your information from. So what makes something stand out? I think here's where, and I hope my colleagues would agree with me, that the admissions process, you as parents and as students probably think it's a very, very scientific procedure that we go through. It isn't at all. It's subjective. No matter how hard we try to make it objective, it's a very subjective procedure. We are looking to put together a freshman class that makes sense for us, that has some kind of identity as a freshman class. And so what we're looking for could change every single year. Certain things would stick out or come to the top one year or the other. So there aren't any magic bullets and that will come out. But there are some general things that I think come through. One is significant musical achievement. And significance is the important point here. It's not quantity. Many times we see students who have played in everything and have been in everything in their school and everything in the community and everything in their church, and none of it adds up to just one really quality, significant thing that they've been able to achieve in, like being the concertmaster or doing a solo or competition or something like that. So I think one of the things we look for is a significant musical achievement as opposed to the quantity. The other thing we look at very, very much are patterns. And we want to see a student who is still blossoming. The opposite of that is a student who really worked hard and then their senior year comes along and they're kind of, taking the year off, so to speak. And we see that, and that's not a good sign because you have to gear up again. You should be blossoming right at the point when you graduate. If you didn't have a great freshman year or freshman, sophomore year, and you went and grew beyond that, that's great with us. In fact, that's almost the stronger students sometimes because we see we're going to get you right on the trajectory. And then for us, and I think for some of the schools, it wouldn't be for Colburn, but we look for a strong balance between academics and musical achievement because we have to be convinced that a person can handle that, which is not an easy thing to do, and or not everybody wants to. And so then we wouldn't be the right place for you.
For the CSU, it's a little bit different because the application process is really twofold. You have to apply, first of all, to the CSU on its own. And the CSU, and I'm sure that Professor Carnahan would say the same thing, the CSU goes through its entire process electronically. So you can fill out one application and select the campuses for which you'd like to be considered for admission. And then those campuses enact their own admissions process, and they look at just a few things. They look at your test scores and your GPA. And there are a series of formula that they enact based upon your test scores and your GPA. And it also, of course, as Professor Carnahan said, is based on where you live, on your service area. For instance, Cal State Fullerton's service area is Orange County because we're in Orange County, and it's not even the Inland Empire anymore. And so students that are in Orange County are favored over students outside of our service area. Once that process happens, then the student is alerted and told whether they're accepted or not, and then in the department, we invite specific students to audition for us, and that's based on what we see in the file. Very similar things to what Dr. Cudietta said. And so it's a twofold process. One must first gain admittance to the university, and then only after that has been successful, which can be a bureaucratic process, then you go through the audition process at Cal State Fullerton. So, and that's something to be aware of. And the dates, as the dates keep getting earlier, I can't repeat it enough. They're trying to keep people out of the CSU, and so they keep moving the dates earlier and earlier. They don't tell students about dates, and so I urge you, students and parents, to remain in constant communication. When you press send on that little computer screen, that does not mean that it's complete. And you must follow up with all of the admissions offices in these big CSU and UC programs to make sure that your voice is heard and that your file is being perused.
I'd like to add too, from the conservatory side, because conservatories typically are, my world, so to speak, would be the standalones, Juilliard, New England, Cleveland, Colburn, San Francisco, that it shifts a bit. There's not the same balance between academics and performance or your major. And what happens is that the major you apply to becomes really, really important, really, really important. So if you're a violinist and you say you're a performance major, then what you demonstrate in your audition is going to be probably the most critical thing. If you're a violinist and you say you're a composition major, then what do your compositions look like? And that will probably outweigh how strong you are as a violinist. And every school is going to have a different balance of that. But for instance, at Colburn, until we get that, that yes on the audition part, because everyone's a performance major, the academics don't play at all until we get past that part. So if you're going to that kind of school, if you're applying to that kind of school, then you have to think about what your major is, and that's where you have to really put a huge amount of your focus, besides meeting the deadlines, getting all the paperwork in, and paying attention to that part of things.
One of the misconceptions a little bit with the university, Chapman, is that it's the same bit process. You do have to, it's a twofold process. You have to apply to the university, which has now moved to a common app, a common application. In other words, you can apply now to various universities, but use one application, which I think helps many parents, certainly, in many respects. But you must also apply for a supplemental application for the Conservatory of Music or the College of Performing Arts. And at that point, you also then have to schedule an audition or send in a portfolio if you're an artist, et cetera, on that level. The one thing, though, that I would tell you is don't let the grades and the GPA, which is extremely high, it's a 3.7 and above, and your SATs are 80,000 and above, and whatever they are now. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. Don't let that scare you from your dream. In other words, there are always ways of getting into a school that you want to get into. If you are determined that, let's say Chapman or any one of these fine schools is where you want to go, make the effort to take the audition and to try. We have ways of picking up the phone and making things happen. I just want to put that out there. Certainly at Chapman, we can certainly do that. If your grades are really, really low, yes, you may be put on academic probation or on something like that, but that you may still be able to get in at that point, and then we would help you at that point. But don't just think, oh my gosh, it's a GPA of 45,000, I can't get in. Don't think that. Go where your heart is at this point.
Thanks. I'm